On this episode, Mike struggles with exhaust. Mike struggles with crossover pipe. Mike struggles with the transmission. Mike struggles with a skid plate. Mike struggles with all kinds of things. And for some reason and somehow creates a functioning Jeep that actually drives again. What's up, everybody? This week in the garage, I'm going to be working on reinstalling that transmission in place of that transmission. One of the things I got to go ahead and work out first is making sure that I swap all the sensors, the tail shaft housing, etc. into the new trans and get it all squared away so I can ship it back and get my core deposit. So for this video, the goal is going to be making sure that I get everything stripped and squared away, and then we might start on reinstallation if we get a chance. But hopefully all of this goes smoothly, because that Jeep has been down while all this snow fell, and now all the snow is melting, and I didn't even get a chance to go snow wheeling. So if we get a chance, if the goal is met this week, we're gonna get this thing back in action so I can go snow wheeling before all the snow is gone. Wish me luck. It's gonna happen. Crossing fingers. I don't know what that was. Scout's honor. So don't mind the dirty garage, but we got our transmission in. These guys at, I'll have to look it up, Extreme Transmissions. It looks like they're out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Cool. They send a complete and ready to go bench tested transmission. They run it on a bench dyno. They make sure everything's good. They make sure it shifts through all the gears, and then they ship it out. It comes with everything you need, including a fresh torque converter. On their website, it says this is some sort of upgraded, better torque converter. I have no idea. It probably is. I believe them. It looks exactly like the one that came out of the Jeep, but I'm cool with that. It also has a couple of nuts and bolts so that I can run new new bolts to connect my torque converter to the flywheel. It's got a seal in there to replace the tail shaft housing seal over there. It's got some new plugs, but I'll need to swap over like this sensor and that sensor, and then also these guys. Then I need to pop the tail shaft housing and the tail shaft extension, swap it onto that guy, and it should be ready to go back in. This new transmission is supposed to be upgraded. So there's supposed to be like some changes to the valve body, a couple of thises and a couple of that's, and a who's it's and a what's it's, so that it's less prone to the same issues. What tends to happen on these transmissions is if you're in 4 high and you run it in like deep snow like I was doing the first time when I took it out, they'll overheat, and it essentially will start to cook certain clutch packs. And in my case, I was pulling Sean out in reverse one too many times, and it cooked the reverse gear out of the Jeep. So I had park, neutral, drive, which doesn't do super well in the snow. So because I didn't find a whole lot of information about it on the internet, this tail shaft housing comes off of the original one, or the tail shaft extension comes off of the original transmission along with the tail shaft housing, which goes in there. What happens is there's this C-clip that is like a captured clip that goes on the inside, and it surrounds that. That housing slides onto it. What you're supposed to do is get a slide hammer that'll thread into the end here and just pound it off. What I do, because I am cheap and I don't like buying new tools unless I have to or I think they're useful, I took one of the bolts for the tail shaft housing. I put it in until it was the right distance out. I took a set of come on, here we go, locking pliers. It's too far in. So I took a set of my locking pliers, I locked them on, And then I took my dead blow and I struck it here and here while holding it with my other hand, obviously, until it popped off. It worked just fine. I have never found that I actually and honestly need a slide hammer. I've always been able to get away with it with some either pry bars or redneck ingenuity. I'm sure someday that'll come around and bite me in the butt, and I'll need one, and Harbor Freight will be closed and whatever. But at this point, that's how I moved my tail shaft extension from transmission to transmission. Now I'm going to go ahead and install that tail shaft housing, and we'll be good to go from there. All right, we have this transmission fully swapped over, and so it is ready to go in the Jeep. I'm gonna go ahead and jack up the front corner of the Jeep, get it ready, and slide this under. Then it's gonna be the game of get it up, get it in place, get it up, get it in place, until it's in the right zone. I do have the replacement seal, like I said, for here. But when I was looking at this seal, it is still really good. And the other seal just doesn't exactly match. It's got, it looks similar, but it has this like plastic inner race thing that I don't have on this seal. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. It just doesn't look right enough for me to want to install it right now. So the transfer case didn't leak any. Nothing came out of this, so it was working just fine before. I'll probably have the transfer case out again at some point to service it, just because it's probably got 160,000 miles, just like the old transmission did. But for now, I'm going to run with the good seal that is known instead of replacing it with an unknown seal. Things that I had to transfer over, we had a sensor here, a sensor here, are connectors for the transmission cooler. There's a sensor up and over here that transferred over, and then once it gets in the car, I'll put the breather on, I'll put the dipstick on, and it should be good to hook. So I shifted through the gears, and it seems like neutral is neutral and drive is drive and all that stuff, so we should be fine from all the things that I can tell. Looks like help's gonna be a little bit later than we thought, and I'm a little more ready than I expected. So I'm gonna set you guys up in a position where I think you can see, and I'm gonna start working on getting this transmission walked up and in so I can hopefully start putting on some torque converter bolts. Since we have a moment and we have the space, I'm just gonna do a little wipe in here and see if there's anything that looks wonky or leaky or anything, and it doesn't seem like we got anything that's weird. This is kind of one of those like worm drive, not very expensive transmission jacks from Harbor Freight. Do they work well? No. Do they work? Most of the time. I'm gonna stop using a ratchet and use an impact. Even though it says real loud on the thing, you're not supposed to do that. I just don't have 2.5 hours to start jacking this thing up. So give me just a second. I'm basically just trying to make sure that I don't crush anything or cause any damage while I'm trying to get this thing in place. Now, never, ever, ever drive it home with a bolt. But, like in this case, I can get the transmission into position and start lining it up and let it thread, because I don't want to break this tab off, essentially. So, what I need to do is get her in place enough. So we're gonna go slow and steady just to get this alignment pin in. Whoa, buddy. I don't like when you do that. Okay. Back to getting this alignment pin in. And then I'll work on getting the other side with the same alignment pin started. To the other side. See if she can line up. Because if she does, we're pretty much in business, aren't we? Now again, we want to get these things lined up and happy, and then tighten them up. So, in this case, we're pretty darn close. Is it tightening? No, not yet. So, what does it need from me? It needs like a little bit of that. Hell yeah, brother. Okay, and again, I'm not gonna crank this thing down using the bolt. I'm just gonna snug it into place so that we know that everything's happy. So again, I've been using these alignment dowels to make sure that everything's where it's supposed to be, but not cranking on anything, because if you crank on these, you can break the tabs off the motor, you can strip out the threads, you can do all kinds of stuff that you don't want to do. I just want to make sure that it's lined up before I start putting in other bolts. So my next step is to get more bolts in, and then at that point I can try and start just making sure everything that's supposed to be plugged in gets plugged in, make sure I don't have any, you know, loose this or loose that, and we should be good to go after that. So this should be fairly smooth sailing from here on out, hypothetically. I say that, I never should have said that. I should have never ever said that out loud.
Oh, well that's good.
What?
There's a bolt missing. This has been attempted before.
Did you come right off for you?
Yeah, it was super easy.
Well, good.
Oh my God, Mike.
What? Is it cracked?
You could say that.
Well, finally we have Sean here. And I know you just watched a video of him taking the manifold off, where we found that we have a camera that is spinning slowly on its own axis. We have a broken manifold bolt, which is fine. I wasn't gonna do the manifold. Sean chose to do the manifold. We found that the manifold is very cracked. If you look here, you can see that essentially exhaust was routing both into the engine bay and out the exhaust at probably equal rates. We're going to go ahead, we'll pop this. Oh, I don't have any other. It'll be fine. We'll reuse these gaskets, and oh look, I might have got gaskets, I don't remember. But we're gonna go ahead and weld a nut onto the last stud that broke off. Sean says he didn't do it. I've never seen anybody else work on it, so we'll see whose fault it really is when the video comes out. Feel free to judge on my selection of ridiculous nuts.
And your August 22 calendar?
Well, here's the thing. I like purple. No, I got distracted.
I don't think you have the right year on that puppy.
No, I know, but I'm just gonna pick a picture that I like better. Ah, I got the right size. And guess what it's doing? It's coming out. Out of the way. She's slow. She's steady, just like this Jeep's always been. No! Okay, we're out further. We're not out yet. Damn! If I was just more patient, I didn't have to break that weld. You might not notice. Said no one ever. Okay, now we're gonna try this again. Let it cool off just a little bit. We'll get that 19 on her. Ooh, there's some heat coming off of that bad boy. And then, let's see if it works its way the rest of the way out. We're just gonna slow and steady this thing with a regular wrench. We're out, boys. Wow, we're falling too. Get out of the thing. Hey, success. All right, huge shout out to Sean. Came over to help me make sure my transmission got in, and instead found the crackiest of cracked manifolds. I don't know how that thing was a thing. This is insane. It was exploded. So we replaced that because I had them. So big shout out to Sean. I very much appreciate it. The transmission was going in pretty smoothly, so I was already a little ways ahead of where I was before, but he got this thing squared away. We welded a nut on so that we could pull out that cracked stud, or the broken stud, that essentially removed itself. So that was fun. Next, we're going back under here. I'm gonna go ahead and start reconnecting everything, finding all the spots for everything, getting it all buttoned up while I have the transmission kind of lowered, if you will. I'll jack it all way up into where it goes. I'll put in the transmission cross member, so it'll all be held back in place and permanently installed again. And then it's to start on installing the transfer case, starter, drive shafts, and all my skids again. I'm gonna go ahead and install that transfer case. Once that transfer case is installed, I'll use the transmission jack down there, and I'm gonna hold everything up. That way I can take my cross member back out and start putting my exhaust back on. Before I do that, I'm gonna make a quick check on the passenger side exhaust manifold just to make sure that it is not also cracked like the driver's side was. Not seeing any cracking in the manifold. It seems like this is the area that it is most likely to have trouble. Come on, focus. There we go. It's cracked. Dang it. Okay, so I will next take the second manifold off and replace that. Thanks, Sean, for being a good friend. Made me do the other side. Now I'll have to do this side. All right, so I got all of these broken loose except one, and it broke. It just straight up is broken. Can't get focus on that. That's okay, we'll focus on it later. So I got a wrench on this. I never even put any pressure on it. As soon as the wrench was on it, it was snapped. So I have one busted, man, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fix this one. It looks like it's broken down pretty far in. So I'm gonna get the rest of this exhaust manifold out, and then I'm gonna go ahead and see how it looks. Okay, so I went ahead and I welded that nut onto that stud. It'll focus eventually if I stop shaking my arms. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put a wrench on it and see if it won't break loose. And if it doesn't, we'll try again. Ooh, that is promising. That is turning. Hey, all right. All right, so now we've got our new exhaust manifold on. I'm gonna put the spark plug wires back on before I forget. Good and tight. Good and tight. All right. So I now have a not cracked exhaust manifold, and so I can get back to doing all the other stuff. Okay, I know I'm getting all over the place now, but I have a new oil pan because my old oil pan got too close to being friendly with a rock. I don't know how that happened. Could have been anybody. But right now, since I have the torque converter bolts in, but I don't have the shield on, that guy, I can get to all the bolts easily to replace that oil pan. And instead of coming back in here and doing it again later and yada, 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 I should just do it. And I know that that is the truth. And so I'm going to do that. I'll drain the oil. It's due for an oil change anyway. So now is a good enough time to do that. So I'm gonna drain the oil real quick, pop this pan off, and then get this new hotness installed. I'll be ready to continue on to more transmission transfer case stuff. This has turned into, I was gonna swap a transmission, and now I'm doing all the stuff I was supposed to do before, which I should have done anyway, but turns out it just takes Sean shaming me a little bit into wanting to get this done correctly. So here's to fresh oil pans and not hitting this one on a rock. Now we've got our oil change completed, so I don't have to worry about remembering to put oil in it later. Now I can put the transfer case on the transmission, lower the transmission and transfer case a little bit to get the dipstick on. Once the dipstick's on, everything's in place. I can start pushing the exhaust on, and once the exhaust is up, then it's just bolting things back together. I don't have to take anything back apart. I don't have to move or modify anything. It'll be pretty smooth sailing from there. I see a lot of people just like bench press these in place, and I get it, guys, you are strong, but I am fresh off of back surgery and was born just weak and frail. So I like using tools like this to help me get things at least most of the way in place, so I don't end up basically putting myself out for the season just to feel strong. I've done it before, and I'll probably do it again. There we go. That is in. So now I'm taking this cross member out so that I can, oh, where'd that not go? There we go. So that I can get the exhaust started to go back in. We're gonna get it as close as we can. Once this is dropped, ideally, if it works out this way, which would be really nice if it did, I can leave one of these bolts in and basically just hang that side. If I can hang that side, I'll be able to get the exhaust in enough. The transmission and transfer case are held in place right now by this jack. So if this comes down like I want it to, it should be fine. Okay, so far so good. Those aren't moving at all. Woo! It worked. Great. That went nicely. So next I'm gonna grab the exhaust and start fiddling with that. We have the battery connected. The transmission has 8 quarts in it. I have the rear end lifted so I could put it in gear and continue filling it. We have the transmission and transfer case fully mounted. The cross member is fully installed. I cannot get the exhaust to fit without cutting it, so I will do that. I have the rear drive shaft in. I'm gonna go ahead and put the front drive shaft in next, and then start installing my skid plates. Both the exhaust skid and the main skid plate over there. We'll get that all squared away. And once that's all squared away, it's essentially ready to drive. All right, now we're to the point where we're about to start installing skid plates. So this is the exhaust skid, and if I remember correctly, it is always mad at me and it rattles against stuff, but I'm gonna install it anyway, because if I don't, I will crush my exhaust. I know that that is true for me as a human being. And the truth shall set you free. I'm not going to install the exhaust skid. So I'm looking at this right now, and it is currently, the exhaust is going to be in the way. I will not be able to get this thing tight like it's supposed to be. So I'm not sure what changed, but this, yeah, in general, the exhaust is in a different spot. It's gonna touch and rattle. Okay, so we're skipping that skid because I don't need it to drive. I just needed it to protect the exhaust. And at this point, for some reason, the exhaust hangs lower. For now, though, I am still going to, even though it's gonna suck. Ooh. I'm gonna go cut the exhaust off the back first. So that way I have room to route this connection so that my exhaust doesn't dump under the cab. Once I do that, then I will come back up here and I will put my other skid plate on and it will be good. Man, would it be nice if that just came right out though? Let's use a little bit of, hey man, I have the power. Cool. Well, that went better than I thought it would. Okay, is this gonna go back far enough? It's not. Nothing is going to work for me unless I make it. You ever heard of the He-Man when he yells out things like, I have the power? It'd have been a lot cooler if that worked. Okay, so all I'm gonna do at this point is just tap it as far as it'll go while keeping it down. That's closer than it ever was before. So I'll get a wrench on this, we'll tighten it up, and then throw the skid on. All right, this is what you've all been waiting for. I'm going to struggle with a really big, beefy skid plate and try and get it on the Jeep. It's fine. This is all fine. Everything's fine. Not like it's very heavy or anything. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know where it should attach. I don't know why I don't have any bolts ready. Oh, it's gonna hit me in the nuts. I'm so scared. Okay. One bolt right here. Great. Oh, I tightened too many things before I was ready. So things don't line up.
Exhaust skid will not work with the setup I currently have, so that's 3 bolts that just don't go in.
The nice part about an electric ratchet is it is also just a ratchet. Okay, so we are wrapped up for the night. Tomorrow, if everything goes smoothly, I'll be able to take you driving and we'll see if this transmission is good and check and top off all the fluids. All right, so I kind of wrapped some stuff up last night to try and get everything together on this Jeep so that I could be out driving it today. I still don't have full exhaust, which is its own thing. But so far I was able to back out of the driveway, which is a new thing from compared to the old transmission. And I've had 2 shifts in transmission so far, so wish me luck. Well, so far we've got no new check engine lights. It's driving. I'm doing the speed limit. I'm in and out of traffic. It's got a couple of weird hiccups that have happened, but it is in the quick learn mode, so it should be learning how to do its own thing. I ran it through the whole process with Tyson so that it would figure itself out. So it not seeming like it's doing anything super weird. So far, so good. We're shifting, we're downshifting. I've seen all the gears so far, which is nice. So we're gonna hope for the best and keep trying. Once this guy turns, I'm gonna give it the beans and see what it does with that. Not like all the beans, because I'm not supposed to. We're still breaking in the transmission. But some of the beans, like a reasonable number of beans. Maybe 6. It's doing better. It's figuring things out. She's working. I think we can call this a success. All right, folks, we have successfully tuned and trained the transmission. It's shifting normally. It's driving normally. There's no hard shifts, no weird stuff. Everything seems to be working. I am still gonna have to figure out my exhaust, because right now, without modifying it, it's not going to fit back on. I don't know what changed, but something changed, and my crossover pipe hangs a little lower than it used to. Might be the new manifold being a different size, I don't know. Any which way, Jeep is good, Jeep is working. Last thing I want to leave you guys with is, this was not an instructional video. My goal was not to teach you how to remove a transmission, or I guess install a transmission. Removal is the opposite of installation. Thank you very much. But the goal was to give you guys maybe an insight or two into some of the things that I do differently, and give you the opportunity to suffer along with me if you're so inclined. So thank you for joining me on this wonderful, wonderful adventure, and I'll catch you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe drop a comment if you're interested in this kind of content. And if you're not, well then, feel free to comment that too. Let me know. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.